The move is accompanied by plans to impose tougher fines on parents of children who regularly play truant.
Children below a certain age should be allowed to go for a few days if they want to, not least of all because the cost is exorbitantly high. If you're going on holiday during conventional periods, a lot of the time the work that is there that needs to be done can be done, generally speaking, either before you go on holiday or after as a catch-up, so you're not really missing out on anything. And going somewhere abroad for a few days is also an education in itself. You're getting to see a different part of the world and you're getting to learn about the world around you. So as long as you can make up that time, I'm not sure that necessarily clamping down on parents using such broad terms is necessarily going to help or make a difference really to the truancy issue at large.
Well, let's discuss the issues now with parent, author, journalist and mother of three, Liz Fraser, and head teacher Joan McVittie, who's also the president of the Association of School and College Leaders, both joining us now from central London. Thanks very much indeed for joining us both. Liz Fraser, if I could start with you. A lot of people are going to say, absolutely, that's crazy. You can't be taking your children out of school during term time. That's not what school is for.
A lot of parents have got in touch with me this evening, actually, before I've come on air, and I've been hearing some very interesting comments, one of which is the age at which we do this. Now, you know, I'm a parent of three. Two of my children are at secondary school. One's at the top end of primary. And, of course, they have to attend school. Of course, all pupils have to attend school, and we can't have people disappearing off here, there and everywhere on holidays. But we're just coming to the end of the half-term week now. There'll be lots of parents watching now who have just survived half-term. We didn't go anywhere this half-term because we couldn't afford it, because the price was 3 to 4 times higher what it would have been outside of half-term time. So we, as two working parents, are faced with the question, you know, of breaking the bank, which we can't do, or of staying at home. And this is affecting many families now. We can't realistically ask the holiday companies not to do that. It's a market-driven thing. It will just happen. So I suppose my suggestion would be, if you're not in the middle of exams, to say to parents, you can have, let's say, 5 days per year, maybe, gratis. You can just go, no questions asked, take them out of school. When they come back, we'll expect them to do X, Y and Z.
Okay.
But the extracurricular thing is important for families to do together.
Understood. We'll get on to that as well, I'm sure. Joan McVittie, though, are you sympathetic to that point of view to start with?
Absolutely not, I'm afraid. It has a major impact on young people. If you take them out of school, they miss key work regardless of what point of the term it is. And equally, when they do return to school after the break, they then hold up the rest of the class, because Liz was quite clear, there does have to be catch-up, and I can tell you they'll be in a classroom saying to the teacher, I wasn't here last week, I can't do this, you'll have to let me catch up. So it creates problems not just for the child themselves, who will now be behind, but for the other children who are actually in the classroom. But notwithstanding, I have every sympathy with the cost of holidays, because as a teacher throughout the whole of my life, that's been something that I've just had to live with. It's just the way it is.
Liz Fraser, can't we just bite the bullet and put up with no nice holidays for a few years while our children are being educated, which after all is pretty important?
I slightly question the word holiday, actually, and I think for me and for the lady actually who spoke just before we were doing this interview, I agree with her as well. It's not a holiday always. It's actually to do with spending time away from your normal day-to-day thing. It's to do with being educated outside of the classroom. It's to do with spending time with your family, and more families can't do that anymore because they can't afford to do it within term time. 5 days, honestly, you can catch that up very, very quickly. It's not going to be the end of your education. It's not going to be a disaster for the class. And I really think that what you learn outside the class by travelling, by being together with your family, is part of your greater education. And I think we need to offer that to all children to be able to do that.
Joan McVittie, a bit of swallows and Amazons in children's lives can't do any harm, can it? Couldn't we factor that into a year-long programme?
I mean, I'm going to come back on this, because this isn't just about spending time with the family. Liz could easily have done that through the half term. It's about taking the children away from school during term time. It's critical. It will have a major impact on the outcomes for the child, regardless of whether it's the GCSE year or not. There's an absolute corollary between attendance in school and GCSE outcomes. And as soon as you drop below that critical 95%, and that assumes that the child's not going to have have any time off at all through the rest of the year through illness or attending funerals or something like that. So it does have an impact. But totally agree. Highly important that, she does spend time with her family, but I would strongly suggest she actually does that in the holiday time. And I'm afraid that if her children were in my school, the answer she would get would be no holidays.
Oh,
Liz Fraser?
I've been told. I mean, I have just spent the half-term week with my children. It's been lovely. But I think it's sort of psychologically and physically important for children to go somewhere else. So, yes, I've just had the week off and I've spent the week with my children, but they're still at home. They're still in the same place. And that breath of fresh air to be able to go somewhere else for a few days in the academic year, I think would be very beneficial for a lot of children. I really do. And very helpful for a lot of families. Because I tell you what happens, Joan, and you know this much better than me, and teachers watching know this. We'll just make something up and we'll say, there are an awful lot of sickness bugs that go around just before half term. I'm sure you've heard this, or dental appointments. I feel terrible doing that. I'd much rather say to the teacher, look, I'll be straight up with you. I'm taking my children out of school 2 days early because it's £400 cheaper. I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to do that.
Liz Fraser, I've got to say, there'll be a lot of people watching who think that the position you're coming from is quite a privileged one. That you're talking about being able to go away at half term and go away. There's 3 half terms in a year. Take them to new environments.
Or anywhere. I mean, it doesn't have to be abroad, anywhere fancy. It's to get out. I mean, everything is full in half terms. All parents watching this know that. Everything is full. Everything is more expensive. You try going to the cinema, swimming. It's just full and very, very expensive. And there are many, many parents now we're not counting hundreds of pounds, we're counting pounds. You're counting every single pound. And I as someone who is passionate about education and all the things I can do to educate my children, I even within that, I think it is very hard on parents to say you will be financially punished for taking your children out of school time.
Joan McVittie, I've just got to say to you, what's the impact on a classroom if they don't go away for holidays, but another child comes in and says, fresh from a week away in the ski resort somewhere, and says what a great time they had? What effect does that have on the dynamics of the class?
Well, the class will have to slow down to allow the child to catch up, but be absolutely clear. The children actually will tell if the parents have taken them out of school. So whilst there's some suggestion that you could pretend that it was a trip to the dentist or something like that, not the case. The children will come back in and they will tell on their parents, and the school staff will be very clear. And so I take a very, very strong line on it.
Joan McVittie and Liz Fraser, thanks very much indeed, both of you, for joining us this afternoon.